Good evening, folks, and welcome back to 365 News. I'm Angela, and tonight we're talking about what went down on November 6th here in North Dakota. As we predicted, our state did not ride the blue wave, and it was a win for the GOP. Kevin Kramer defeated incumbent Heidi Heitkamp and will be sworn in on January 3rd, 2019 as North Dakota's junior senator. Max Schneider lost to Kelly Armstrong in the open seat race for our at-large district for the House of Representatives. We predicted that Kramer would win with 55.2% of the vote, but when all the votes were tallied, he won with about 55.11% of the vote. We also predicted that Armstrong would win with just 53.5% of the vote, but he ended up winning with 60.2% of the vote. Tonight we're bringing in our Senate specialist and our House specialist to talk about why our predictions were a smidge off.
Our predictions were only about 0.09% or about 30,000 votes off for the Senate race. I think we can best explain this slight Republican bias like this. We thought the number of college degree voting holders would have an influence on the election and push in direction toward the Democrats, but according to Politico, there was no correlation between education levels and the way people voted. We also predicted that the indigenous vote would be mildly to severely repressed due to a recent change in voter ID laws. According to Time, however, Native Americans actually responded to the attempted vote suppression by turning out en masse. Heitkamp pulled about 30,000 more votes than we expected, but that was not enough to save her incumbency. Kramer followed the strategy of an ideal quality challenger by proving why the incumbent should be fired and presenting himself as a viable alternative, citing his work in the House by credit claiming and position taking in favor of North Dakota.
Our predictions for the House race were much more inaccurate, about 6.7% off. So why do we have such a strong Democratic bias? Even the most generous polls predicted a GOP win with only 56% of the vote. Secondly, in the last midterm elections, 2014, which was a great year for Republicans overall, Kramer won with just 55.5% of the vote, even as an incumbent. It is my opinion that we were expecting a similar or even lower numbers from Armstrong, who did not have an incumbency advantage. Lastly, we think voters perceived Armstrong as having done more for them in the state legislature than Schneider. Armstrong was on multiple committees throughout his state legislator career, whereas Schneider was on none. Committees are one way that elected officials can partake in credit claiming and position taking. This probably influenced voters to vote for Schneider despite his DUI scandals and pushed his numbers higher than anyone could have predicted. Long-term factors, as per usual, have much more of a strong effect on the election than short-term factors. In conclusion, the Democratic bias resulted largely from poll inaccuracy, previous midterm results, and Schneider being perceived as a dog with bark and no actual bite. It's important to note that sometimes it's good to get the polls wrong because that means that not everything is determined by numbers. Campaigning and getting out the vote and non-quantitative factors do impact elections and help shape the way we elect people to represent us. These results, while mostly predictable, were still unique, and we can use them to learn about changing demographics of the state and how the people of North Dakota want to be heard.
Thank you for joining us in the crazy wild ride as the 2018 midterms, and we will see you in a few months when we start the marathon that is 2020.